Well, let's now make a sense of the President's Independence Day speech. And we have in our Abuja studios the former Minister of Aviation and also advisor to the PDP chairman, Mr. Osita Chidoka. Thank you so much for joining us today. Now, you said that yesterday was one of the gloomiest independence celebration you have witnessed in recent times. You also said the saddest part was the absence of hope in all those speeches and conversations. So, I mean, was there a time you witnessed any better? And what did you mean by lack of hope in the speeches?
Well, yesterday was a very sad day. I have a cousin, actually a cousin-in-law, who was born on 1st October 1960, and he lives in the United States. He called me sometime in the evening yesterday and said, Osita, I'm looking for hope. Everything I'm hearing in Nigeria is sad news. I mean, where are we going from here? Next year, those of us born in 1960 will be 60 years old. What it effectively means is that the people born at independence who have joined the public service will be retiring next year. It means that the independence children has finished their job for Nigeria. And what that means, and the implication of that is that if Nigeria is not working, it means that our independent generation has failed. So yesterday was an opportunity for the country, starting with the president, to set the tone of how is the state of our union. The speech he read yesterday was like a defense of his administration. It was like a discussion about the nitty-gritty that should have been left for the Minister of Finance to talk about our foreign reserves, talk about our debt management profile, talk about our social investments. Those are issues for the ministers to discuss. The president ought to have discussed about how is the state of our union. Are Nigerians happier than they were on 1st October 1960? That hope that Nigerians saw in 1960 as we were doing independence, as people were dancing and the British colonial government was withdrawing. How do Nigerians feel today about the Nigerian flag? Have Nigerians pledged to be faithful, loyal, and honest to the Nigerian dream? Is there really a Nigerian dream? What has kept Nigeria going from a civil war to military rule to back to democracy? I thought that yesterday was an opportunity, which we had missed when the presidential tribunal, in the last presidential tribunal case, the judiciary failed Nigerians. They failed Nigerians in talking about how to restrain politicians from knowing that our votes count. The issue was not about President Buhari or Vice President Atiku Abubakar. The issue is about the fact that there was no need for 38 people to die in one state because we had an election.
Mr. Chidoka.
The issue was that we have to respect the rules of the game. We cannot change the rules of the game. If INEC publishes rules and regulations, the courts cannot come back and say it is not known to our laws.
59
because
years,
the idea
Mr.
is to
Chidoka,
rein in
59 years didn't
So when that
begin
happened,
today.
Nigerians lose faith.
It began decades ago. And the president has said, you know, he had maintained that the administration inherited a skewed economy, I mean, where the oil sector comprised only 8% of GDP, contributing 70% of government revenue, foreign exchange earnings over the years. So, I mean, when you look at all of the issues, the power sector, the struggle out of recession, the rise in unemployment, poverty, the dilapidated industries, refineries, I mean, can we not say that our political leaders in all of the decades have failed Nigeria?
Yeah, I started by telling you that the children of independence have failed Nigeria. But that is not the message, because we all know that. That is not an issue. When Nigerians voted for change, when Nigerians asked the president to take over office, it wasn't because they want to hear about the problems of Nigeria. They want to hear about the solutions to the problems of Nigeria. So my point is that discussing our GDP, the value of 8% of GDP contributed by oil and 70% of revenue, is that the structure of Nigeria, and that is the point Professor Soludo made yesterday, the structure of Nigeria is a structure of distribution. It's a distributional economy to distribute the resources of the oil wealth. Now, what we need to be hearing today is how do we restructure, and I hate to use that word because like Soludo said, it has become politicized. How do we change the structure to create an incentive for production? because the government cannot solve the problem by still building on the wrong foundation. The issue of fighting corruption, the issue of economic coming out of recession has to go back to fundamental issues of making sure that what we have today in Nigeria is a structure that promotes productivity, is a structure that promotes Nigerians to restore hope in Nigeria, confidence in our union, and to say for everybody, this is our country. Me, I like my country. I like the land and people. Everything he did for Nigeria was a slogan we designed at some point in our country. Nigerians cannot say that again today. So
I must ask you
that all that issue he went into was not the issue for today. The issue for today is what is the state of our union and what can we do to make our union better.
I was also going to get quickly your thoughts on the P&ID contract briefly, because for the president, the award is a case of past activities of a few corrupt and unpatriotic Nigerians. I mean, do you see Nigeria confronting and indeed defeating the monster called corruption?
I've lost contact with you. I didn't hear your last.
Okay, quickly
part.
to ask you on the P&ID contract for the president, it was an award. The award was a case of past activities of a few corrupt and unpatriotic Nigerians. Do you see Nigeria defeating the monster called corruption? Briefly.
The P&ID, I don't have the details of what transpired in the contract, but again, it goes back to the fundamental issue of respect for rules when rules are made, and if those rules are made, whose job is it? Who in the bureaucracy has the responsibility to ensure that contracts are properly structured? It cannot be the case of the president. Even after the contract has gone wrong, there was ample time for us to make amends. But like I said, today, our Independence Day speech is a day to give Nigerians hope in our future. In 1960, we were hopeful. In 2019, we are not hopeful. Fighting corruption in Nigeria will require us to take fundamental decisions about the structure of the distributional politics of Nigeria today. So long as we continue to distribute from Abuja, so long as we continue to hand over cash to people every month, call federal allocation, so long as people will find an opportunity to put that money in their pocket. What we need to fight corruption, the instruments of fighting corruption, has already been implemented in the federal government. Whether you talk about what they call the IPPIS, the personnel role that the PDP government introduced, whether you talk about the single account, single treasury account, whether you talk about the GIFMIs that the president mentioned, all those were things put in place by the PDP government to ensure that we eliminate and reduce corruption in the federal government, particularly the Bureau for Public Procurement, which has continued to be a money-saving venture and has continued to standardize our contractual processes in Nigeria. Those were the things introduced. But we shouldn't go into that at this time. What we need to hear from the president is the hope for our future. What are you investing? What are we doing for our children today? He talked about population growth, but he didn't offer any solution to the population growth. We cannot continue to grow this population at this rate and expect that we will resolve it by increasing payments in education. No, we need to have a conversation about our population growth. We need to have a conversation.
For that, I know he said there are benefits and there are also challenges, but I believe we must let you go at this time. We'd like to thank you, Mr. Osita Chidoka, former Aviation Minister, advisor to the PDP chairman, for joining us on the program.